And welcome back to the Geek Centurions. It's me and your boy Eli, and the good old Joey with me again.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going? So, how you doing, Joe?
Doing great, doing great.
Very tired.
What are we doing today? What's brought us here on this fine day to talk about?
So, in recent news, in the comic book world, a very tragic news. Okay, but we're gonna be talking about the hopes and dreams and kind of stuff. George Perez, who's a very well known and prolific artist in the comic book world. He is basically one of the heads of the team that made the Teen Titans. So Nightwing, Raven, Beast Boy, Cyber, all those characters, more iconic designs, well, classic designs, I should say. He was the one who made it, and he has worked for both companies. It's not that uncommon to see, but he has such prolific work in both companies. I think one that maybe you know is that he worked on Infinity Gauntlet. He worked on it for a good amount of time and then left to do his own little story. And he's done a lot of stuff. He's done Avengers. He's done X-Men. I can't recall, but he's done a lot of great books. And sadly, he's terminally ill. He is in, I believe, he has some sort of cancer. I just can't remember. Sadly, off the top of my head, it was a lot to read, but essentially, he might not be long for this world, and that's a very sad fact because he is one a very like well known artist and a very celebrated artist, and really, especially for us, a great Hispanic artist. He prides himself in that a lot, and he was responsible. And this is what leads me to this thing. A lot of people want to honor him by pleading to both Marvel and DC to re-release a book that he worked on, and it's a book that many people, including us, want to see reprinted again. This book is hard to find, and it is the last big Marvel DC crossover book, JLA Avengers. And so that led me to think not only just not only talk about George Perez's work on that book, but also other crossovers that Marvel and DC had, because I feel like not many people know that they've actually crossovered before. And again, like just to honor George in a way, honor George Perez in his way, in our own way, is just to talk about his work on that. And but okay, so here it now. I gotta remember it's pancreatic cancer, and cancer can be a bitch, as we all know. So that's where I'm. This is where I'm going in with like one. John George Perez, he has done amazing work. I implore you all to go check out his work and his foundations. Many that I can't name off the top of my head because I'm a horrible researcher. I was never good at that. But I think it was give me one. It was a certain print that he's worked on. I just can't. The Hero Initiative, which he is a part of. Go check that out. It's amazing. It's awesome. So, and what a great way to talk about it, but not only like leading up to the conversation of this book coming back out, which only 7,000 copies. So it's gonna be a struggle to get,
Yeah.
especially since Marvel and DC don't do crossovers anymore, and that's gonna be a thing that we're gonna talk about. Because one, they used to do crossovers back in the day, they don't anymore. There might be reasons as to why, and chances are we're not gonna see this again, but we may get more if this works out. And it's kind of, and again, to honor George Perez for his amazing work. And obviously, there's a lot of works that we can talk about, but to connect to the whole to this big, I mean, there's a reason why people are like, can we have this book back in honor of George Perez? Because like that was an important as book. It is the last crossover, and he was the artist, and I think he helped in the writing process as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know what do you think of that
I
situation?
mean, yeah, that does sound like a very noble cause for people to rally behind. Um, I yeah, I think this is like the I do remember this sort of crossover, or at least I remember. I think this is like the one, like since it's the most recent one. I think I have seen like stills of images and stuff from the book.
I swear, if there aren't any posters of like panels that this man has drawn, this should be. There's a panel where Superman is holding Mjolnir and Cap's shield. That is like badass as hell.
Yeah,
Like I can't think of a word to say because it's like that is amazing to think. Superman holding Mjolnir and Cap's shield
right.
going into battle. It's like oh, that's awesome. That tickles like a level of nerdness in me
Yeah,
that can't be explained. And so yeah, like it's great that we're seeing them in a way. This is going to be an honor to him, and that we get to see this again. But like let's move on into why these crossovers happen. So like here's the thing for a lot of people that don't know, comic books didn't sell that much back in the day. There wasn't really much of a like competitiveness to it.
yeah. Like I mean, to be fair, like I think there was various points where comics were big and whatever.
Yeah.
Like obviously when comics first started out, they were sold on the newspaper stands, and they were just seen as like reading material for kids and stuff and like that. But over the course of time, right, we got more interesting plots, more interesting characters. Sort of the evolution of the comics as a whole, and then we enter like probably like comics to a point where like you're not really seeing them as much and they don't make as much money, right?
Yeah, and obviously sometimes these crossovers will help boost them in many ways. Like, and from my understanding, a lot of the times when they do crossovers, it's like, okay, you do one and we do one. All right, what characters are we using? Okay, you write your own story. We're doing our own story with this crossover, and it became so apparent that even DC, you know how DC has like the infinite multiverse and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and like different Earths, Earth 19 or whatever.
Yeah.
There isn't. This is an actual fact. There is an actual Earth where it's a Marvel and DC Earth, where they're both living in the same Earth. Like Gotham is only like 20 miles away from New York or whatever. Batman and SpiderMan hang out sometimes or whatever, and like that's like a fun idea. It's like a lot of people are like, I don't know if I want to see it. Like I know a lot of people think about it, like it's a little kind of silly, but it's kind of also a fun idea to see how they would interact. Not just, I mean, yeah, they're gonna probably fight or whatever, but like also just see them like, hey, how's it going, Spidey? How's Nightwing? All that shit. I kind of, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying anymore.
I mean, yeah, like it does sort of like. Cause I mean, I know like the general gist of like a lot of crossovers is sort of like they must fight and stuff.
Until a greater evil shows up.
Yeah, but other times like it is fun like when a crossover is just the characters hanging out for a bit and teaming up.
Yeah.
Instead of just like immediately like let's fight.
Yeah.
Like who would win?
Yeah.
Situation.
And like so, there's too many to give out examples, so I'm just gonna give a couple out. Well, there was one where Captain America and Batman did team up, and there's a funny panel moment because the two villains that team up to go against them are the two obvious characters, right? Red Skull and Joker. And I still wonder if this is an actual like meme image because you know how there's sometimes they'll alter comic book panels to say like really weird shit.
Yeah.
Like the stuff they've been doing to Moon Knight, where like Moon Knight didn't say that in the book. I mean, it'd be cool if he did, but he didn't say that.
Right.
But so like there's a moment where like Joker realizes, wait, you're a Nazi? Fuck you! He was like, Joker, the most like vile and villainous dude is like, fuck you to Nazis.
Yeah. I think I've seen this flying around. Where it's just like I might be a murderous criminal, but I ain't joining up with no Nazi. Let's
like,
get them, boys.
It's just like, what? That is like the weirdest thing ever, and that's like the epitome of like what I think these crossovers should kind of be like sometimes. Just real good and fun, and like sometimes like really good storytelling, you know. And so obviously Cap, you know, Batman, that's a one. And there's most of the time, just as you guessed, it's gonna be crossovers with the big two superheroes, Superman and Batman. I don't know if there's more than that, but I do know one of the first ones they did was a Superman SpiderMan book where they fight, and then they team up and stuff. And the most I read about it was like basically the quick synopsis, like okay, they're fighting, they team up, they hang out with their respective girlfriends, and it ends in an awkward panel because they're both making out with their girlfriends. It's like what? Okay, what? Granted, this is like one of the first ones, so it's like the idea of them crossing over was just like, eh.
Yeah.
But like, it's been like it happens like every once in a while, from my understanding when I was looking into this. But the most biggest one, which is which is one that we're talking about right now, but also the last one, which they actually try to put more of a story into it. The first one being Marvel versus DC, which is the one that, you know, everyone would be clamoring for, right?
Right.
Like they're gonna fight. We're gonna pitch Superboy versus Spider-Man, which, you know, and you're like, why is Superboy and Spider-Man? Like, well, because at the time it was the clone Spider-Man, you know, Ben Reilly, and it was Superboy, you know, who was a clone of Superman. Mm-hmm. And they had like Superman versus the Hulk, Thor versus I think it was it wasn't Storm. It was someone around those lines. Cap versus Batman, like earlier. Storm versus Wonder Woman, and so on and so forth. And the thing about that one was that it was basically a vote. Like there was some like half like they had like a list of people who were fighting, kind of like a tournament style, and the writers would decide, okay, who would win this actually. So like Namor versus Aquaman and such. And for the last ones, they allowed the fans to vote. And so, and that's where a lot of that comes in, right? So it's funny because like the story about it was like these two like cosmic brothers who never knew about each other found out about each other, which is like, wait, how do you know your brothers if you never found out about each other? Mm-hmm. Which is like comic books in SCS, I know. And sort of they fight, and they do the fight. They choose their champions when these are the champions, right? Mm-hmm. And there these big like giant like gods with the color scheme of each company. Mm-hmm. So like DC is blue and such. So their god is blue and Marvel is red. So red versus blue.
Yeah.
Like no big thing. And okay, so I have the listings of who wins, right? And I think it was like an equal amount of winners. But I mean, whoever. But Aquaman defeated Namor, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. It was Elektra and Catwoman.
Right.
Who do you think won that one?
I can't. I don't know. Maybe Elektra. That seems like she probably has better. Like she was trained to be an assassin, and Catwoman. She can fight, but she's
a cat burglar.
Yeah, she started as a cat burglar, but yeah.
You were right. The Elektra did win that.
Okay.
Flash versus Quicksilver.
I mean, it's gonna be the Flash.
Yeah, it's a different Flash. So this is one that because this when I was reading this, like the idea of this story and how it went, they had Robin versus Jubilee, which are like the two Robin, Tim Drake, you know, and these are the two youngsters of whatever group they're in.
Yeah,
you know, Tim Drake is the youngster of the Robin family at the time. Jubilee, same thing. Robin wins, but also like forms a relationship with Jubilee. Because why not?
Yeah, why not?
Fucking young love.
Yeah.
Star-crossed lovers and shit.
Yeah, put some Romeo and Juliet spice in there.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Oh, okay, so it's Thor and Captain Marvel, you know, Shazam. Mm-hmm. And Thor wins.
That's interesting.
Why?
I don't know. I just, I don't know. Because Shazam has always been sort of like, Dean is one of the stronger of the DC heroes. You know, like he can at least stand toe to toe with Superman on occasions. It's depending on the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's certainly interesting.
Okay, and so it was Storm and Wonder Woman. Storm wins that one, which is, in my opinion, kind of weird.
Yeah, But at the same time, Storm controls the elements.
By the way, from Storm, and as I go forward, these are the fan votes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the ones that I just mentioned before are all like editorial.
Right.
So these are the fans. The fans deem that Storm wins.
Okay.
Which is, I'm like, but why?
I mean, probably because people like Storm more than Wonder Woman at the time. I don't know.
And it was the 90s.
It was the 90s.
Wolverine versus Lobo.
I would bet that most people would vote for Wolverine just because he's Wolverine.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Lobo's done more crazier shit though.
I mean, yeah, like Lobo is a very crazy character, but I mean, if you're putting fans to a vote, like people are just gonna vote for Wolverine just because they know who Wolverine is, and Lobo I think has always been sort of obscure
For some people.
for some people.
And Batman vs. Cap, I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, Batman. Yeah.
Batman. Because Batman has the most loyal fan base of all.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and Superboy.
I mean, logically, it would have to be Superboy, but judging through fanboyism, Spider-Man probably wins that.
Yeah, that's Spider-Man.
Okay, all right.
I feel like if this was the deciding factor, it would be no. Like I don't see this character winning, but it was Superman versus the Hulk. So
I mean, that's a pretty classic who would win fight between comic book nerds. I feel like Supes was voted to win that.
Yes, he was.
Imagine, yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I like how this description is because I'm looking at the wiki. After exchanging punches and a burst of heat vision, Superman won the fight eventually.
Eventually.
Like you have to wait till he tired him out.
Yeah, I mean that's.
He rope a dope some shit.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah, now, granted, I'm saying this as like, yeah, who wins? I'm not going into like how they won. They probably found like a weird like way to like make them win. Like say Wonder Woman Storm just took out all the air from around Wonder Woman and made her pass out or some shit like that, which I don't think she can do. But then again, she fucking terraformed Mars in like recent issues.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, Storm terraforming Mars makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All you need is oxygen. Right?
Yeah, I mean, to make weather patterns, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a meteorologist.
I didn't study for that.
Yeah, I honestly don't understand how weather works half the time.
Just, it's God's tears, right?
No, I mean, it has to do with water and in the air and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, wind patterns.
Somehow, some way.
Yeah.
She's Omega level.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's an interesting fact about this specific crossover is that it led to a different, I wouldn't say publication, but like a joint publication because, there was a character whose name Access, and I did some research on this again. He can jump between words, but he eventually like somehow, I'm probably like screwing up the story, but at the same time I kind of don't care because like I didn't read it, and it sounds kind of silly at the same time. But this led to the amalgam universe where like, okay, let's put these two characters and fuse them, like fusion dance style.
Yeah, I think okay. I think I vaguely have seen something about this. It has something to do with Batman and Wolverine, right?
Yeah, Dark Claw.
Yeah. I think I've seen this image before.
And he's fighting a mix of Joker and Sabretooth called the Hyena. Yeah, I see you going like, no, I don't like that. Yeah. That's lame.
Yeah.
And Superman and like Cap, because of course, and that one I think was called Super Soldier.
That's very lame.
And you know how the shield is the S. It's not like a full rounded shield. It's just the S crest on Superman, on like Superman's chest.
Okay.
Which I'm like, that seems less safe than the last one.
Well, but if he's a fusion of Captain America and Superman, he still has some Kryptonian invulnerability or whatever. So I guess it doesn't matter. He just has the shield just to look cool.
Yeah. I'm seeing if I can find some more of those because those were always kind of the funniest thing. Where because I think it was called Doctor Strange Fate.
Oh, for Doctor Strange and Doctor Fate.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's a kind of cool name. I wish they kind of kept that. And like, from my understanding, some of them had their things, but others like were just like, oh yes, Bruce Wayne, Agent of Shield. Just say it.
I mean, sure, I guess. I don't see. If you Batman does not follow protocol. He is a man above the law. I believe he has his own laws. He would not be a member of a highly of a secret spy organization.
Doctor Doomsday.
It's Doctor Doom and Doomsday.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, okay, I get the idea because it's this, it's nice wordplay, but like, those two characters are further apart in terms of personality and all sorts of power sets. that just seems a little like they just
why?
They just liked the name, and then they didn't think about the rest of how they would design that character.
Spider Boy.
Superman, SpiderMan, Superboy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he probably has the worst design if you look it up. Look up Spider Boy, and it's just like that. Just looks like the most lamest one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they made. Technically, there was two Wonder Womans. Diana, I forget her last name. Mm-hmm. And Storm is also Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Which is weird, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, if there's like two Wonder Womans instead of them combined to be one, that would be weird.
Okay, here's one that's pretty obvious. J. Jonah White.
Okay, it's Perry White, J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get me pictures of Spider Boy.
If only.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so they finally found a way to work Captain Marvel. They have a character named Captain Marvel, which is a mix of Billy Baxton and Captain Marvel.
I mean, that's one way of getting that name rights fixed, right?
Yeah.
Just combine the characters. So you combine
Some of them just straight, just keep the names, like Hawkeye and Canary. They just, mix them together, like Green Arrow and Hawkeye, so they just still call him Hawkeye.
Yeah, I mean, I guess after a while you're just like, what is he? Is he Green Hawkeye? Is he Hawk Arrow? Let's just stick to Hawkeye, make him green.
Mm-hmm. Mr. X and Amalgam is an amalgam of Martian Manhunter and Professor X. And a bit of the Skrulls in there, which, I mean, the Martians are Skrulls, basically.
In a way, yes. Yeah. It's just I mean, my only thing is why Professor X is just because they're both bald. Is that the only connection?
No, man, they can remind, dude. They can remind. You forget that.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. Charles Xavier has always been. I always felt was like one of those high level psychics, intellects.
Yeah.
But Martian Manhunter, I always I don't think he can spread his consciousness into a different person and then use his body.
Don't start. Don't start. I knew you were building up to that shit. God damn it, Joey.
What? I mean, it happens in the movie.
I hate you so much. I hate you. But yeah, there's all that stuff, and it didn't last very long.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was every day. They did it every once in a while, from my understanding. But then now that leads us into the most recent one, and the one that started this conversation, JLA Avengers, the last crossover book. To my knowledge, that happened. I think there was other ones around it at the same time, but this is the big one. Essentially, this is probably the more story-driven one. And I read a little bit of it. Because I was able to find some online. And essentially, the idea is something's going on that's affecting both universes, and each respective team, the JLA, Justice League of America, and the Avengers are off to find their, what do you call it, their MacGuffins, and each one eventually some gets transported into the other world. There's this really interesting scene of Flash trying to save a mutant.
Right.
And he's like, whoa, guys, chill. You don't gotta hurt this kid because he looks different. He's like, he's a mutant lover. Get him. And because he's in a different world, he doesn't have access to the Speed Force, and he kind of as soon as he runs, he trips.
Right.
It's the funniest shit, but also oh, this is really horrifying because they're all trying to kill the Flash.
Yeah.
And like there are moments where like, and I really love the moments where like the Justice League's just in like where both teams are just like looking at how like both teams are looking at like how each of their how superheroes are treated in each respective universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like like the Avengers are like amazed at how much they praised and like I guess in a sense worship the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's like wow, like this is like really weird. Like so much adoration.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Justice League looks in tomorrow and like, oh my god, this place is a nightmare. This is like a horrifying place. Like the level of destruction and death. And like there's a moment where like Martian Manhunter's like, yes, I read what happened here, and he's like scanning like Genosha, like the mutant island that
Right.
got bombed. And he's like, their only crime was being different.
Right.
And Batman's like, we're not here to interfere. And like the moment he sees Punisher, he's like, okay, screw that, I gotta interfere.
Yeah.
It's like it's like very telling of how like each of their world is, and also kind of like funny as to how they would react in those worlds. Because like Batman would not tolerate Punisher.
Right.
He would not.
No,
No,
he wouldn't. He
no,
wouldn't.
no. Batman's whole thing with guns, no, he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
He would look at them and be like, fuck no. And it's like, and like I said, some of the more story driven. This is the one George Perez draws, and he does a fantastic job. So much detail in each panels. The spreads are amazing, and like, I love it when like teams like there's a moment where like both teams like the universes are like merging, and then not like the amalgam style. It's more like like we're living in the same world kind of shit.
Right.
It's like there's like a moment where it's like, hey Superman, like some random Marvel character, I can't remember who it was. Remember the time we like teamed up to fight Ultron and Amazo and how cool that was? And he's like, what? What are you talking about? This isn't my world.
Right.
And you're like, okay, I kind of want to see that happen.
Right.
And then I think Cap and like Superman, the other ones are like, what is going on? What am I doing here?
Right.
I think there's even a panel where like, I'm trying to remember now because I recently read it where like Black Canary is like dating Hawkeye and Green Arrow's in the corner like, why
That's why why you gotta do that to the Green Arrow? I don't think he's done anything wrong.
I mean, out of the two arrows, who's the better one?
I mean, I don't know. Someone should debate that. There should be a video about that somewhere.
Yeah, it's a video where those two fight.
Yeah.
A sort of death battle, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we were bound to make that joke.
Yeah, in an episode where we're talking about Marvel DC crossovers, yeah.
Yeah, no surprise there. And essentially, like, yeah, no, and it ends in a way where it's, like, kind of hopeful. But, yeah, no, and that was, like, the last big crossover that they did. And it was, like, really cool and, like, really, like, creative. Like, and I say, there's a moment where Superman has to fight, and for the extra power-up, he gets Mjolnir on one hand and Cap's shield in the other. Nice. Which is, like, that's fucking cool. That's badass. And, like, you want to see that more. Like, after that, you're like, I can't wait to see them cross over more. Like, it only makes sense. Like, you kind of want to see that, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know, how do you feel about whenever you see, like, crossovers like that?
I mean, I'm definitely of the opinion of, like, yeah, that's, like, a cool thing that happens. It's sort of like one of those, like, dream come true scenarios. Because, a lot of kids are always just sort of... And people who, like, grow up reading the various different, like, Marvel or DC stuff, always have that quandering question of, like, what if they, what if these guys actually crossed over? What would these scenarios turn out to be? Obviously, there's
it's a kid. It's a kid with his toys.
Yeah, it's like a kid with toys, playing, mashing things out. But, it happens in the actual storylines of comics and stuff, and it's like, oh, that's super cool to see. And yeah, I think it is kind of neat for stuff like that to happen. In the context of the comics and stuff. And it would be, I guess, nice to see it sometimes more, like, probably just even like just little references or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
And like sadly we don't get those anymore because I think it was around a time where like the people in charge really wanted to be more of a competition. I think Joe Quesada, who's like he said some like he wanted to be more competitive than anything else and be like really friendly with DC. He said some words and you might want to hold on to this one, Joey. He said that sort of like a jab at DC at the same time. It's like he kind of preferred them being competitors, and he thought it made him feel better. Which to some extent, you kind of agree with, right? It's like Apple and Android. Who's gonna top the other?
Yeah, I mean, in a business sense, yeah, like I get that sort of perspective because, out of Marvel and DC are the two biggest comic book creators in the market. You have Image and Dark Horse and various other like smaller comic book companies, but Marvel and DC have always been like the big two. You know, it's like Coke and Pepsi. Like you said, Apple or Android. Like there's always sort of like these big two in a lot of in like various companies, and it's sort of just a battle between them.
Yeah.
Like not never necessarily like of like who comes out on top or whatever. It's more like just sort of like, all right, we compete against each other.
Yeah.
Like we don't necessarily want the other one to go out of business or whatever. But we definitely don't want. We want to be succeeding more than the other one.
Yeah, so, and you can see, like I said, you see that every now and then, and like it's really rare to see them cooperate as much as like Marvel and DC did. And you kind of want to see more of that, but you kind of get why they want to be competitive at the same time, right? And it's really kind of tragic that some people have said some really like messed up words to the other person. And I'm trying to like find the quote that he said because like it was a really like, ooey, like it's like. It's like what is DC anyway? They have Batman and this is his quote. They have Batman and Superman and they don't know what to do with them. That's like being this is where I'm gonna tell you this is gonna hit hard. It's like being a porn star with the biggest dick and you can't get it up. What the fuck?
That is definitely a comparison.
It's like damn, okay. You just had to say that.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely. If anything, I just find that friggin'. But that's just a weird comparison. Just why does he go to that?
Right?
Yeah, like that's just yeah, that's a little weird.
It's almost kind of a compliment.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's a compliment, but at the same time, he's implying
they can't do anything.
Yeah, erectile dysfunction or whatever joke. Yeah, it's just a very, very. I don't know. It's just like a weird like comparison to make when at the end of the day you guys are just making comic books.
Yeah.
Like why did it need
to
get
you're a very niche like entertainment.
Yeah, why did it have to get all sexual out of nowhere?
even worse, why did you have to be so insultive?
I mean, yeah. Like I don't think I've ever heard Steve Jobs ever make that kind of jab at like a Microsoft or at Bill Gates,
It's just like say like I think this is a joke I heard like it's a house with no windows.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I remember like a joke like that.
Yeah,
Apple. It's because it's
an Apple house.
Yeah, it has no windows. Exactly.
That's the point.
You get it? Because it doesn't have Windows operating. So yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think that's a bit of a crossing a bit of a line when it comes to like if you want to be competitive.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like you don't have to be insulting, right?
Yeah.
If you want like actions speak louder than words. Like if you want to stay competitive, then like actually do stuff with your brand, with the characters, with your own comics, to be competitive and essentially, I guess, outdo the other company in whatever they do.
Show them with the numbers, dude.
Yeah. You don't have to like, I guess, stoop to like petty comments and insults. If you're really that confident that
Your product is better.
product's better, then show
It
it.
almost makes you seem more childish.
It definitely does.
And like after that, DC was like, "Yeah, we're not gonna. Yeah, that's the crossover is kind of it's over now." And so that's kind of the reason why George Perez's book, the one he drew, is like really valuable because it's the last one and it's a really good one. And it's sad that we're not gonna get like I'm not saying like if more came out, the Perez book would like dip in quality, right? It's just like it's like it's one of his greatest works. It's one that we want to honor him on, but it's also like, one we'll never get to see again because of stupid people like Joe Quesada.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's even harder now because who owns DC, Joy?
Warner Brothers.
And who owns Marvel?
Disney.
Are you ever going to see those two work together again?
Yeah, that is definitely, I think, probably the actual big reason why we probably won't be seeing any Marvel DC crossovers like in the near future, because
Yeah.
these companies are owned by other larger, massive multimedia companies, and unless Disney and Warner Bros. Figure out some way to share profits.
If they pull a Roger Rabbit on us,
I mean, yeah, because that was like sort of like, I guess, one of the big things of the Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie with all these cartoon characters is that you had a moment where Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse, the two essentially figureheads of Warner Bros. Animations and Disney Animation, on screen at the same time, and there was a stipulation that they had to share the exact amount of screen time. And this happened with Donald Duck and Daffy Duck as well.
don't forget the same number of lines too.
Yes.
With Mickey and Bugs Bunny.
Yeah. So
Like literally, just go look at those two scenes. They pretty much sum up how that deal was done. There'll be a moment where like Daffy gets knocked out into the piano, and he's like getting like time it. I'm telling you, time it. That sounds. I mean, it might be a little too much for y'all, but like look how many times Daffy's on by himself, then how many times Donald's on by himself, and times when they're both together. And it's probably easier to do with the Mickey and Bugs because like they each have one line, and they're just talking to each other.
Yeah. So like
no one wants up the other.
And when it comes to like at least the DC Marvel thing, I don't know, like Marvel Disney already has like had enough trouble having to like make deals with Sony in order to keep on ensuring that they still make Spider-Man movies together. So I see it as particularly hard for Disney and Warner Bros. To work out some sort of monetary deal for like a crossover between any Marvel DC property. I know that there is like, granted, this is a fringe rumor of Nether Realms.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Nether Realms newest fighting game potentially being a Marvel DC game. Like, this is a fringe rumor as far as I'm concerned, because quite frankly, I feel like we would have like that involves a lot of Marvel and DC stuff, but obviously, Disney and Warner Bros. Are gonna have to step into the mix. And they're gonna be like, well, I don't know how much money. How much money is it gonna make? What's our cut? Are we gonna get? Is it gonna be? Are we gonna do an even 50-50, like good proper companies, or are we gonna fight to get just a little bit of the edge?
Just a little bit.
Well, technically, Nether Realms is owned by us, Warner Brothers. So
we're putting more work in there.
Yes, but we technically have a more, prosperous comic book movie industry right now because of us. So just give us the extra dough. And it's like, no, 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 no.
We're handling the marketing, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's
Honestly, just go do another Marvel's CanCon. That's all we need.
yeah, it's that's sort of litigation and corporate back dealing is probably like the actual real reason why there won't be a Marvel DC crossover in comic book form, especially not in movie form. God,
Oh God!
they,
Don't get me wrong. That would be badass as fuck to watch.
that would be pretty incredible, but yeah, no,
So like all the hype that you would see in like the Marvel or DC movies. Like remember when we saw No Way Home and how hype that was?
yeah.
Imagine the screams.
I mean, yeah, that would be like a big crazy like oh my god,
Yeah.
it probably would be like one of the biggest media things to ever happen is to have Marvel and DC crossover in movie form. But the amount of money and rights and litigation between Warner Bros. And Disney, as well as like having to pay all these actors various cuts, like that alone probably is like like a very hard thing to do.
Oh yeah, it is. Just imagine how many people would be in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
That don't get me wrong. You can make money out the ass. That's like the most money you could make in the entire world, kind of shit.
Right.
Considering how popular these characters are. But the question is, who's greedier,
Yeah, like who wants more of the pie,
right?
right?
Like who want like you? It's like you have like it's your birthday and you want you get the cake and you want the first piece, right? You want that first slice.
You want the first and the biggest slice of all. Who's gonna get it?
You want the one with the ice cream filling at the top, for whatever flavor it may be. But yeah, sadly we won't be seeing anymore. Maybe, and this is my hope that maybe because of this wonderful work that this man has done, and the love of his work can maybe bring back more crossovers. I am totally down for that. And don't get me wrong, there are moments even in Marvel and DC where they kind of reference each other. And that's about it. There's a Donny Cates book in Thor where like he kind of like used the DC universe as an example. He didn't outright say it was Superman and Batman. It was like, yes, it was just like this pantheon of heroes, one of like the sun and like he stated them, but I was saying the names, and then like they all died. But he was just using it to prove a point. Fucking Doomsday Clock book that Jeff Johns wrote mentioned that Superman will fight against Thor and he'll be saved by a green giant, Hulk and Thor, obviously. And heck, some comic book creators go even far as like, oh no, yeah, the Marvel universe is just over there. It's on the other side of that universe, just right there. It's like there shouldn't be a problem with crossing over, and I'm just like, oh, it's so cool that these people think that, and I hope maybe we can get something like that someday, but I don't think so.
Right.
But maybe again, like, and this is why this is where I'm gonna end it with this statement. If you have the chance, if you have the ability, and from my understanding, it's at retail price, go out and get yourself a copy of the JLA Avengers book. Not only just to celebrate George Perez's work on that, but to remind yourself of what could be and maybe what can be of the future. You do have to do. It is going to be pre-ordered, so talk to your local comic book shops to see if you can get it. And yeah, it should be fun. That's how it should be. Hopefully we can get some stuff out of it, and some good love. And yeah, I think that's about it. I think we're all good for this episode. So guys, if you enjoyed what you heard, please be sure to check us out on all forms of social media: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the Geek Centurions. We are most active on our Instagram. And if you go onto our Instagram page, you'll find a link tree to all the podcasts that we're officially part of, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Pandora. You will also find a link to the YouTube channel that we have, where you can put a face to the voice for all you audio listeners out there. And of course, we have a link to the Patreon where you can guys support us in any form of way. And yeah, that's been it. Let's hope for more Marvel Music crossovers. Me, your boy Eli.
Jimmy Joe.
And you guys have a good one. Peace.